Sophia Mendoza tapped her fingers on the steering wheel as she drove through Palm Heights, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the city. Unlike the flashy sports cars that usually cruise these streets, her 5-year-old silver sedan blended into the background. That was exactly how she wanted it. Despite being the daughter of tech billionaire Carlos Mendoza, Sophia preferred to keep a low profile. The tree-lined streets were peaceful in the late afternoon sun. Large houses with perfectly manicured lawns stretched in every direction. Sophia checked the address on her phone again. She was looking at potential buildings for her nonprofit's new community center, and this area had a few empty commercial properties that might work. Just 2 more blocks, she muttered to herself, slowing down to look at the street signs. In her rearview mirror, blue lights suddenly flashed. Sophia frowned, checking her speed. She hadn't been going fast at all. With a sigh, she pulled over to the curb, reaching for her purse to get her license and registration. 2 police officers approached her car, one on each side. The taller one, with a name badge reading Reed, tapped on her window. "License and registration, please," he said, his voice flat. Sophia handed over her documents with a polite smile. "Is there a problem, officer?" Officer Reed looked at her license, then back at her face. His partner, Officer Dawson, circled around the car, peering inside with a flashlight despite the daylight. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" Reed asked, ignoring her question. Sophia blinked, surprised by his tone. "I'm looking at some properties for a possible business location." Officer Dawson snorted. "Business location? In Palm Heights?" Something in his voice made Sophia sit up straighter. She'd dealt with this kind of skepticism before. "Yes. My father's company is expanding, and we're looking at options for a community outreach center." Reed handed her license back without looking at it properly. "Step out of the car, please." "Excuse me?" Sophia asked, confused. "What's this about?" "We've had reports of suspicious activity in the area. Step out of the car now," Reed repeated, his hand moving to rest on his belt. Sophia felt her heart rate increase, but she kept her voice steady. "Officer, I've given you my ID. I'm here for legitimate business reasons. Can you tell me what suspicious activity I'm supposedly involved in?" Instead of answering, Reed opened her car door. "Out now." Feeling a mix of fear and anger, Sophia slowly unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped out. The warm afternoon air felt suddenly cold. "Turn around and put your hands behind your back," Officer Dawson instructed. "This is ridiculous," Sophia protested, but complied. "I've done nothing wrong." The cold metal of handcuffs clicked around her wrists before she could say anything else. A couple walking their dog across the street slowed down to watch. "You're making a huge mistake," Sophia said, trying to keep her voice level. "My name is Sophia Mendoza. My father is Carlos Mendoza of Mendoza Tech. You can call him or our family attorney to verify who I am." Reed laughed. "Right. And I'm best friends with the president." "We've heard all kinds of stories from people who don't belong here," Dawson added, leading her to the side of the road. "Everybody's somebody important when they get caught where they shouldn't be." The couple with the dog had stopped completely now. The woman had taken out her phone and appeared to be recording. An older man watering his lawn across the street was watching too. Sophia felt her face burn with humiliation, but she kept her chin up. "Check my phone," she suggested. "My father's number is there. Or Google Carlos Mendoza and Mendoza Tech. It will take you 30 seconds to verify what I'm telling you." Officer Reed shook his head. "We'll sort this out at the station." Sophia took a deep breath. "Am I under arrest? Because if I'm not, you need to remove these handcuffs and let me go." "We're detaining you on suspicion of casing houses for potential burglary," Reed stated, his tone suggesting he'd just made that up on the spot. Sophia couldn't believe what was happening. "Based on what evidence? Driving slowly and looking at addresses?" "Listen," Dawson cut in, his voice dropping. "People like you don't just come to neighborhoods like this for no reason. So drop the act." The meaning behind people like you wasn't lost on Sophia. She'd experienced subtle racism before, but this was blatant. More neighbors had gathered now, some openly filming with their phones. "This is racial profiling," Sophia stated clearly, making sure her voice carried to the growing audience. "And it's being recorded by at least 3 people right now." Reed glanced around, seeming to notice the small crowd for the first time. He lowered his voice. "Keep quiet if you know what's good for you." Sophia stood straight despite the awkwardness of having her hands cuffed behind her back. "I know my rights. I haven't committed any crime." You have no probable cause to detain me. A sleek black SUV slowed as it passed, the driver watching the scene with interest. Sophia recognized Mrs. Patel, one of her father's business associates. The woman did a double-take when she spotted Sophia, then quickly pulled over. Sophia? Is everything all right? Mrs. Patel called, stepping out of her vehicle. Officer Reed moved to intercept her. Ma'am, please return to your vehicle. This is police business. Mrs. Patel, dressed in an elegant business suit, looked between Sophia and the officers with obvious confusion. I know this young woman. She's Carlos Mendoza's daughter. What's going on here? You know her? Dawson asked, his confident demeanor faltering slightly. Of course I do. Our families have dinner together regularly. Her father is one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in the country, Mrs. Patel said firmly. Why is she in handcuffs? The officers exchanged glances. Reed cleared his throat. We received reports of suspicious activity. What suspicious activity? Mrs. Patel interrupted. Looking at real estate? Sophia's nonprofit organization is expanding. Carlos mentioned it at our last board meeting. Sophia felt a wave of relief. Thank you, Mrs. Patel. These officers didn't believe me when I tried to explain. More cars were slowing now. Palm Heights was a tight-knit community, and word traveled fast. A young man had joined the couple with the dog, all three now openly recording the situation. Officer Reed's radio crackled. He stepped away to answer it, speaking in low tones. When he returned, his face had lost some of its color. There seems to have been a misunderstanding, he began. A misunderstanding, Sophia repeated. You handcuffed me for driving in an expensive neighborhood and looking at addresses. That's not a misunderstanding. That's profiling. Dawson moved behind her but didn't remove the handcuffs. We were responding to reports. On what reports? Mrs. Patel demanded. I live 3 streets over and there haven't been any break-ins or suspicious activity reported to the neighborhood watch. I'm the president of the association. Reed's jaw tightened. Ma'am, with all due respect, you need to let us do our job. Your job is to protect and serve, not harass innocent people, Sophia said. I'd like you to remove these handcuffs now or explain exactly what law I've broken. Neither officer moved to uncuff her. Sophia realized they were waiting for something, probably confirmation of her identity from their superior. Her phone rang from inside her purse, still in the car. That's probably my father wondering why I'm late for our meeting. May I answer it? No, Reed said quickly. We're still sorting this out. Mrs. Patel had taken out her own phone. I'm calling Carlos myself. This is outrageous. The crowd had grown to about a dozen people now. Sophia recognized several faces from charity events and business functions. The officers were looking increasingly uncomfortable. How long have you been with the department? Sophia asked calmly. Both of you seem young for patrol officers. First year, second? Neither answered, but Dawson's ears turned red. I'm not trying to get you fired, Sophia continued, but this is a textbook case of racial profiling. When this makes the news, and it will, your careers might never recover. Are you threatening us? Reed asked, stepping closer. Not at all. I'm stating facts. Those videos will be online within the hour. My father has over 5 million followers on social media. Do you really want to be the officers who handcuffed Carlos Mendoza's daughter for being Latina in Palm Heights? Before either officer could respond, a sleek silver Bentley turned the corner and came to a stop behind the patrol car. The crowd parted as Carlos Mendoza himself stepped out, followed by a sharp-dressed woman carrying a leather briefcase. Sophia had never been so happy to see her father. Despite the situation, she couldn't help but smile slightly. The officers had no idea what was about to hit them. The woman with the briefcase was already taking pictures with a professional camera, documenting the scene. Sophia recognized her as Patricia Winters, their family attorney. Sophia? Carlos called out, his normally warm voice ice cold as he took in the handcuffs. Are you hurt? I'm fine, Papa, she answered. Just a misunderstanding according to these officers. Carlos Mendoza was not a physically imposing man. At 55, he stood only 5'9" with salt and pepper hair and glasses. But he radiated authority as he approached, his Italian suit immaculate, his expression controlled but furious. Which one of you is in charge here? He asked quietly. Both officers straightened. The storm was just beginning. Carlos Mendoza stood perfectly still, taking in the scene before him. His daughter in handcuffs. 2 police officers looking increasingly uncomfortable. A growing crowd of neighbors with phones raised, recording everything. I asked which one of you is in charge, Carlos repeated, his voice quiet but carrying across the now silent street. Officer Reed stepped forward, squaring his shoulders. I am, sir. Officer Reed, this is my partner, Officer Dawson. Excellent, Carlos said. Now, would you kindly explain why my daughter is in handcuffs? Reed cleared his throat. Sir, we were responding to reports of suspicious activity in the neighborhood. What suspicious activity? Patricia Winters interrupted, the family attorney already taking notes on her tablet. Be specific, please, Dawson jumped in. A silver sedan driving slowly, the driver appearing to case houses. Carlos raised an eyebrow. Case houses? My daughter was looking at commercial properties for her nonprofit's community center. She had appointments with real estate agents. We had no way to verify that, sir, Reed said, his confidence visibly diminishing. Did you ask? Carlos inquired. Did you call the real estate office when she told you why she was here? Did you Google her name or mine when she identified herself? Did you check her ID properly? Because her license clearly states Sofia Mendoza, and a simple internet search would have confirmed exactly who she is. Neither officer responded. Patricia stepped closer. I'd like those handcuffs removed immediately. Unless you're formally charging Ms. Mendoza with a crime. Reed hesitated, then nodded to Dawson, who moved to unlock the handcuffs. As they came off, Sofia rubbed her wrists, the skin reddened from the tight metal. Thank you, she said, maintaining her dignity despite the situation. She walked to her father's side, and he placed a protective arm around her shoulders. Are you okay? He asked softly. I'm fine, Papa, she assured him, though her voice trembled slightly. Carlos turned back to the officers. My daughter was racially profiled today. She was humiliated, handcuffed, and detained without cause. This is not something we're going to let slide. Sir, there was no racial profiling, Dawson protested weakly. We were just doing our job. Your job is to protect and serve all citizens equally, Carlos replied. Not to harass a young Latina woman for, being in an affluent neighborhood. The gathering of neighbors had grown to nearly 20 people now. Mrs. Patel pushed through the crowd. I already told these officers that I know. Sofia and her family, she said to Carlos. They still refuse to remove the handcuffs. Patricia was documenting everything, taking photos of Sofia's wrists where the handcuffs had left marks. We'll need the badge numbers and full names of both officers, as well as their supervising officer's contact information. Reed's radio crackled again. He answered it, turning away from the group. When he turned back, his expression had changed completely. That was the station, he said, his voice strained. They've confirmed Ms. Mendoza's identity. Sir, on behalf of the department, I want to apologize for the misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Carlos repeated, his voice dangerously calm. My daughter told you who she was. She offered proof. You chose not to believe her. That's not a misunderstanding. That's bias. A sleek black SUV with the police department's insignia pulled up. A man in a crisp uniform stepped out, the gold badge on his chest identifying him as Captain Thomas Rivera. Mr. Mendoza, the captain called, approaching quickly. I came as soon as I heard. I cannot express how deeply sorry I am for this incident. Carlos nodded curtly. Captain Rivera, we met at the charity gala last month. Yes, sir, Rivera confirmed, looking genuinely distressed. Your generous donation to our youth outreach program was greatly appreciated. He turned to Sofia. Ms. Mendoza, I offer my personal apology for the treatment you received today. Sofia looked the captain directly in the eyes. Thank you, Captain. But an apology doesn't erase what happened. These officers didn't believe me simply because of how I look and the car I drive. Captain Rivera turned to Reed and Dawson, his expression hardening. Both of you wait in your patrol car now. The officers retreated quickly, the crowd parting to let them through, many still filming. Mr. Mendoza, Ms. Mendoza, if you would prefer to discuss this matter privately, we can continue this conversation at the station or another location of your choosing, Rivera suggested. Patricia stepped forward. Captain, with all due respect, the damage was done publicly. My clients have nothing to hide. Of course, Rivera nodded. I understand completely. A young woman from the crowd approached hesitantly. Excuse me, Ms. Mendoza. I recorded everything from when they first pulled you over. Would you like me to send you the video? Yes, please, Patricia answered before Sofia could respond. That would be extremely helpful. Several others in the crowd offered the same, approaching with their phones, offering their contact information to Patricia. Carlos squeezed his daughter's shoulder. "Are you sure you're okay?" Sophia nodded, but her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I just keep thinking. If you hadn't come, if Mrs. Patel hadn't recognized me, if these people hadn't been recording, what would have happened to me?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Everyone present knew the answer. "But that didn't happen," Carlos reminded her gently. "And we're going to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." Captain Rivera cleared his throat. "Mr. Mendoza, I want to assure you that we will conduct a full investigation into this incident. Officers Reed and Dawson will be placed on administrative leave effective immediately pending the results." "That's a start," Carlos acknowledged. "But we'll be filing a formal complaint. This needs to be addressed at a systemic level." "I understand," Rivera said, his expression grave, "and I welcome your input. Your perspective as community leaders is invaluable to us." Sophia, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "Captain, may I ask you something?" "Of course, Ms. Mendoza. How many complaints of racial profiling has your department received in the past year?" Rivera shifted uncomfortably. "I don't have the exact number with me." "And how many of those complaints resulted in disciplinary action for the officers involved?" The captain didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. "That's what I thought," Sophia said quietly. "This isn't about two officers making a mistake. It's about a culture that allowed them to think what they did was acceptable." Patricia finished collecting contact information from witnesses and rejoined the group. "We have more than enough evidence to proceed with a formal complaint. I've also been in touch with the ACLU. They're very interested in this case." Captain Rivera paled slightly. "Mr. Mendoza, I hope we can resolve this matter without involving outside organizations." Carlos shook his head. "This stopped being a private matter the moment my daughter was placed in handcuffs in front of an audience. We're not looking to punish individual officers. We want change. And accountability," Sophia added firmly. Mrs. Patel, who had been listening to the exchange, stepped forward. "The neighborhood association will support you fully, Sophia. Many of us have witnessed incidents with these officers before." "You have?" Captain Rivera asked sharply. "Yes," Mrs. Patel confirmed. "Particularly with delivery drivers, landscapers, and other workers who come to the neighborhood. Nothing this blatant, but enough that several residents have commented on it." Rivera looked genuinely troubled by this information. "I was not aware of these concerns. This is something we need to address immediately." The crowd had begun to disperse, though many remained at a respectful distance, still watching. Sophia's phone, which had been retrieved from her car, buzzed continuously with notifications. "It's already on social media," she said, looking at the screen. "Someone posted the video with my name tagged." Carlos sighed. "Let's get ahead of this." Patricia, draft a statement for the press. Short, factual, emphasizing that we're working with the department to address the underlying issues. The attorney nodded. Already typing on her tablet. "Captain," Carlos continued, "we'll come to the station tomorrow to file the formal complaint. Today I'd like to take my daughter home." "Of course," Rivera agreed. "I'll personally oversee the investigation." "You have my word." As they prepared to leave, Sophia paused, looking back at the police car where officers Reed and Dawson sat, their expressions a mix of anger and fear. "They're going to lose their jobs, aren't they?" she asked her father quietly. Carlos followed her gaze. "That depends on many factors. The investigation, their history, the department's policies. But yes, it's possible." Sophia was silent for a moment. "I don't want revenge. I want change." "I know, mija," Carlos said, pride evident in his voice despite the circumstances. "And that's exactly why we're going to pursue this. Not out of anger, but because it's the right thing to do." As they walked to Carlos's car, Mrs. Patel approached one last time. "Sophia, I know this isn't the right time, but that community center you're planning? The old Wilson building on Maple Street might be perfect. It's been vacant for months and the owner is eager to sell." Despite everything, Sophia smiled. "Thank you, Mrs. Patel. I'll look into it next week." "That's my girl," Carlos murmured as they got into his car. "Always looking forward." The Bentley pulled away from the curb, leaving behind a neighborhood forever changed by what had transpired on its quiet streets that afternoon. The video was already spreading across social media platforms, gathering comments, shares, and outrage with every passing minute. For officers Reed and Dawson, watching the luxury car disappear around the corner The realization was slowly sinking in. Their careers might have just ended, undone by 15 minutes of poor judgment and unchecked bias. For Sofia and Carlos Mendoza, the fight was just beginning. By evening, the video had over 1 million views. Sofia sat in her father's home office watching the footage for the third time. The camera was shaky at first, then steadied as the person recording found a good angle. The audio was surprisingly clear, every dismissive word from the officers captured for posterity. "Turn it off," Carlos said gently, placing a cup of tea beside her. "You don't need to keep watching it." Sofia closed the laptop with a sigh. "It's strange seeing yourself like that. I keep thinking I should have said something different or done something else." "You handled it perfectly," Carlos assured her, taking a seat across from her. "You stayed calm, you were clear about your rights, and you didn't escalate the situation. I'm proud of you." Patricia Winters entered the room, her usually neat bun now slightly disheveled after hours of work. "The statement is ready for your approval. Short and factual as requested." She handed Carlos a tablet. He read it quickly, then passed it to Sofia. "What do you think?" Sofia read the carefully crafted paragraph. Today, Sofia Mendoza was wrongfully detained by police while viewing commercial properties for her nonprofit organization. The incident, which has been widely shared on social media, is a clear case of racial profiling. The Mendoza family is working with authorities to address this issue and will be pursuing all appropriate legal avenues. We appreciate the community's support and ask for privacy as we move forward. "It's perfect," Sofia nodded. "Simple and to the point." Patricia took back the tablet. "I'll release it to the press immediately. And Carlos, you should know that your phone has been ringing non-stop. Everyone from local news to national outlets wants a statement." "They can wait," Carlos said firmly. "Family comes first." Sofia's phone buzzed again, the 20th notification in as many minutes. "It's getting out of control. The video's been shared by 3 celebrity accounts already. Are you okay with that?" Carlos asked, concerned. "We can try to have it taken down if you want." Sofia shook her head. "No, people need to see it. This happens every day to people who don't have our resources or connections. The only difference is that I happen to be a billionaire's daughter." "And they picked the wrong billionaire's daughter," Patricia added with a small smile. "The department's already feeling the pressure. Captain Rivera has called 4 times in the last hour." Carlos's phone rang again. He glanced at it, then straightened. "It's Governor Wilson," he answered, putting the call on speaker. "Governor, thank you for calling." "Carlos, I just saw the footage," the governor's voice came through clearly. "Is Sofia all right?" "I'm fine, Governor," Sofia answered. "Just a bit shaken." "I'm sorry this happened in our state," Wilson said, genuine concern in his voice. "I've already spoken with the police commissioner. He assures me that the officers involved will be held accountable." "We appreciate that," Carlos replied. "But this isn't just about 2 officers. It's about systemic issues that need to be addressed." "I agree completely," Wilson said, "which is why I'd like to invite you both to join our newly formed task force on police reform. Your perspective would be invaluable." Sofia and Carlos exchanged looks. "We'd be honored," Sofia answered. "But we want to ensure this isn't just for show. Real change needs to happen." "Absolutely," the governor agreed. "My office will send over the details tomorrow. And Sofia, for what it's worth, I'm deeply sorry this happened to you." After the call ended, Patricia looked impressed. "Well, that was fast. The governor doesn't reach out personally unless something's serious, or unless there's political capital to be gained," Carlos said dryly. "But we'll take whatever help we can get." A knock at the door interrupted them. Elena, Carlos's housekeeper for the past 15 years, entered with a tray of food. "You need to eat," she insisted, setting it down. "All 3 of you." "Thank you, Elena," Sofia said gratefully. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the aroma of Elena's famous chicken soup filled the room. As they ate, Patricia's tablet kept lighting up with notifications. "The police department has issued a statement," she reported, scanning the screen. "They've placed both officers on administrative leave pending a full investigation." "Standard procedure," Carlos commented. "What else?" "They're calling it an unfortunate misunderstanding and promising a thorough review of training procedures," Patricia continued, rolling her eyes. "Typical damage control. What about social media?" Sofia asked. Patricia scrolled through various platforms. "It's trending nationally now. Most comments are supportive, though there are some claiming you're playing the victim or using your family's influence." Sophia sighed. That was expected. There's something else, Patricia said, her tone changing. Someone's been digging into the officers' backgrounds. Reed has 2 prior complaints for excessive force, both involving minority suspects. Dawson is still in his probationary period. Been on the force less than a year. How did people find that so quickly? Sophia wondered. Public records, Patricia explained. Once their names were out there, it was just a matter of searching the database. Carlos leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. Reed's prior complaints change things. It establishes a pattern. Exactly, Patricia agreed. And it strengthens our case considerably. Sophia stirred her soup absently. What will happen to them? Realistically? Patricia considered the question. Reed will likely be terminated given his history. Dawson might get a suspension, possibly termination as well, but he could argue he was following his senior partner's lead. And the department? Carlos pressed. Public apology, sensitivity training, possibly a review of policies, Patricia listed. The usual responses to these incidents. But with the attention this is getting, they might be forced to do more. Sophia's phone rang. A video call from her best friend, Lucia. I should take this, she said, stepping out of the room. Once in the hallway, she answered. Lucia's worried face filled the screen. Are you okay? Lucia demanded without preamble. I just saw the video. Why didn't you call me? It's been crazy, Sophia explained. I'm fine, really. You don't look fine, Lucia observed. You look exhausted. Sophia couldn't argue with that. It's been a long day. I can't believe those officers, Lucia fumed. The way they spoke to you, like you were nothing. That's exactly it, Sophia said quietly. They didn't see me as a person. Just a stereotype. Well, they're seeing you now, Lucia pointed out. The whole country is. After finishing the call, Sophia returned to find her father and Patricia deep in conversation. The ACLU wants to take the case, Patricia was saying. They see it as an opportunity to push for broader reforms. Carlos noticed Sophia in the doorway. What do you think, Mia? It's your decision. Sophia took her seat again. What would working with them mean exactly? It would mean a higher profile case, Patricia explained. More media attention, more public scrutiny, but also more resources and a chance to affect real change beyond just this incident. Sophia considered this. If we work with them, can we set some conditions? I don't want this to become just another viral moment that fades away after a few days of outrage. Absolutely, Patricia nodded. We can draft a proposal outlining specific reforms we want to see implemented. Then let's do it, Sophia decided. But I want to be involved every step of the way. This isn't just about me anymore, Carlos smiled proudly. I wouldn't expect anything less. The following morning brought a fresh wave of media attention. News vans had gathered outside the Mendoza estate, reporters hoping for an exclusive interview. Carlos and Sophia watched from the living room window. We'll have to make a statement eventually, Carlos said. I know, Sophia agreed. But I want it to be on our terms. Patricia arrived early, already fielding calls as she walked in. Good morning. Hope you both got some sleep. We have a lot to discuss. She spread several newspapers on the coffee table. Their story was on the front page of each one. Billionaire's daughter racially profiled. Tech mogul's daughter handcuffed without cause. Police face backlash over detention of Latina executive. Sophia read the headlines aloud. Captain Rivera has requested a meeting. Patricia informed them. Today, if possible, and the police chief wants to issue a joint statement with you. Carlos snorted. I bet he does. Damage control. We should meet with them, Sophia suggested, but not for a joint statement. I want to hear what they have to say first. Agreed, Patricia said, making notes. I'll set it up for this afternoon. A notification popped up on Patricia's tablet. You might want to see this, she said, turning it around to show them. It was another video, this one from a home security camera across the street from where Sophia had been detained. The angle was different, capturing the entire interaction from the moment the police car pulled up behind Sophia's sedan. The homeowner just released it, Patricia explained. It shows everything from the beginning. They watched in silence as the scene played out again. The new footage revealed something the original videos hadn't captured clearly. Officer Reed's aggressive posture from the very first interaction, and the way both officers had dismissed Sophia's explanation without really listening. This changes the narrative, Patricia said. It's not just about what happened after you were handcuffed. It shows they approached you with bias from the start. Carlos's phone rang, Captain Rivera again. He answered, putting it on speaker. Mr. Mendoza, Rivera began, his voice strained. I've just seen the new footage. I want to assure you that this behavior does not represent our department's values. What does represent your department's values, Captain? Carlos asked coolly. Because from where I'm standing, these officers felt comfortable enough to act this way, while in uniform and on duty. Rivera sighed. You're right to be angry. I'm angry too. This isn't the kind of policing I stand for. What are you prepared to do about it? Sophia asked, leaning toward the phone. I've recommended immediate termination for both officers, Rivera said, and I'd like to discuss additional steps when we meet today. After the call ended, Patricia looked at them both. That's unusual. Typically, they'd wait for the investigation to conclude before making that kind of recommendation. The security camera footage changed things, Carlos observed. It leaves no room for interpretation. Sophia stood up and walked to the window again. The media presence had grown. At least a dozen news vans now. I want to make a statement, she said suddenly. Not through a press release. I want to speak directly to the cameras. Carlos looked concerned. Are you sure? Once you step into that spotlight, I'm already in it, Sophia pointed out. At least this way I control what I say. Patricia nodded approvingly. I think that's wise. People want to hear from you directly. Then let's do it, Sophia decided. Now, before the meeting with the police, I want them to know exactly where I stand. As Patricia made arrangements, Carlos joined his daughter at the window. You know, he said quietly, when I started my company, I thought making money would protect us from things like this. That success would somehow shield you from the prejudice I faced growing up. Sophia took her father's hand. Some things money can't change, Papa. But what we do with it might. Outside, the reporters perked up as Patricia stepped out to announce that Sophia would be making a statement. Camera crews rushed to set up. Journalists jostled for position. Sophia took a deep breath, straightening her shoulders. How do I look? Like a woman about to change the world, Carlos answered with pride. Together, they walked toward the door, ready to face the cameras and tell their story on their own terms. The moment Sophia stepped outside, camera flashes erupted like lightning. Microphones thrust forward, reporters calling her name from all directions. Carlos stood protectively at her side as Patricia guided them to a hastily arranged podium on the front lawn. Sophia took a deep breath, her hands steady on the wooden edges of the podium. The chaos of voices gradually quieted as she prepared to speak. Good morning, she began, her voice clear and composed. My name is Sophia Mendoza. Yesterday afternoon, I was wrongfully detained by police officers while looking at commercial properties for my nonprofit organization's community center. She paused, making eye contact with several reporters. I was handcuffed on a public street simply because the officers didn't believe someone who looks like me had legitimate business in that neighborhood. This isn't just my story. This happens every day to people who don't have the resources or platform that I do. A reporter called out, Ms. Mendoza, are you seeking the officer's termination? Sophia held up her hand. Please, I'd like to finish my statement. The crowd quieted again. This isn't about punishing individual officers. This is about addressing a system that allowed this to happen in the first place. A system where my word wasn't enough, where my identification wasn't enough, where my humanity wasn't enough. She stood straighter, her voice growing stronger. I'm not interested in revenge. I'm interested in change. Real, lasting change that ensures no one else experiences what I did yesterday. Another flash of cameras as she continued. To that end, my family will be working with civil rights organizations and community leaders to develop concrete proposals for police reform. We will also be establishing a legal fund for those who face similar discrimination, but lack the resources to seek justice. Carlos stepped forward to stand beside his daughter, a hand on her shoulder in silent support. What happened yesterday was wrong, Sophia concluded, but what happens next is what truly matters. Thank you. Immediately, the reporters erupted with questions, shouting over one another. Patricia stepped to the microphone. Ms. Mendoza will take a few questions now, she announced, pointing to a reporter in the front row. Sophia, how are you feeling today after yesterday's ordeal? Sophia considered the question. Honestly, I'm still processing everything. I feel angry, of course, hurt, but mostly I feel determined. This can't be allowed to continue. Another reporter. Do you believe this was racially motivated? I don't need to speculate about motivation, Sophia answered firmly. The video speaks for itself. The officers approached me with assumptions based on how I look and treated me accordingly. That's the definition of racial profiling. A third reporter called out, Mr. Mendoza, as one of the richest men in the country, do you think your influence is the only reason this incident is getting attention? Carlos leaned into the microphone. Wealth and influence shouldn't be prerequisites for justice. Yes, our family name has brought attention to this case, but that only highlights the problem. What about the thousands of similar incidents that happen without cameras or wealthy parents to intervene? Who speaks for them? Patricia selected one final question from a young reporter near the back. Ms. Mendoza, what would you say to the officers if they were here right now? Sophia hadn't expected that question. She paused, genuinely considering it. I would ask them to reflect on why they approached me the way they did. What assumptions were they making? What training led them to believe their actions were appropriate? And most importantly, I'd ask them to imagine how they would feel if someone they loved was treated the way they treated me. With that, Patricia ended the press conference. As they turned to go back inside, the reporters continued shouting questions, cameras still flashing. Once inside, Sophia exhaled deeply. How did I do? Perfectly, Carlos assured her, pride evident in his voice. Poised, articulate, and focused on solutions rather than blame. Patricia was already checking social media on her tablet. It's being live-streamed everywhere. The response is overwhelmingly positive. Dignity under pressure is trending. Sophia laughed softly at that. If they could see me now, she said, sinking into the nearest chair. I'm exhausted. You've earned a rest, Carlos said. But unfortunately, we have the meeting with the police department in 2 hours. Patricia's phone rang. She stepped aside to answer it, speaking in low tones before returning to them. That was Captain Rivera, she informed them. The meeting location has been changed to the mayor's office. Apparently Mayor Chen wants to be involved. Carlos raised an eyebrow. Interesting. The mayor doesn't usually get involved in police matters this quickly. The video has over 10 million views now, Patricia pointed out. This isn't just a police matter anymore. It's political. 2 hours later, their car pulled up to City Hall. More reporters waited outside, but security personnel kept them at bay as Sophia, Carlos, and Patricia were escorted through a side entrance. Mayor Chen greeted them personally in the hallway, her expression serious. Mr. Mendoza, Ms. Mendoza, thank you for coming. I want you to know that I'm taking this matter very seriously. They were led into a conference room where Captain Rivera waited alongside. Police Chief Gregory Banks and 2 other individuals, introduced as members of the Police Oversight Committee. Before we begin, Chief Banks said once everyone was seated, I want to extend my deepest apologies for what happened yesterday. It was unacceptable and does not reflect the values of our department. Sophia noticed the careful phrasing, the same language Captain Rivera had used earlier. With all due respect, Chief Banks, she said, if this behavior doesn't reflect your department's values, why did your officers feel comfortable behaving this way? The chief shifted uncomfortably. That's a fair question. And one we're asking ourselves. There's clearly a gap between our stated values and some of our officers' actions. Mayor Chen leaned forward, which is why I've asked to be part of this conversation. Ms. Mendoza, your press statement this morning resonated with many of our citizens. Your call for systemic change rather than individual punishment is exactly the approach we need. Patricia opened her briefcase. We've prepared some initial proposals we'd like to discuss, she said, distributing folders to everyone at the table. Carlos took over. These include improved training protocols, transparent complaint procedures, community oversight, and regular audit of officer interactions to identify patterns of bias. Chief Banks flipped through the document, his expression guarded. Some of these proposals would require significant resources and policy changes. Yes, they would, Carlos agreed unapologetically. Change isn't free or easy. What about the officers involved? Sophia asked directly. Captain Rivera mentioned termination was being recommended. The chief and captain exchanged glances. Officer Reed has been terminated, effective immediately, Chief Banks confirmed. His prior complaints combined with yesterday's incident made that decision clear-cut. And Officer Dawson? Patricia pressed. He's been suspended without pay pending further investigation, the chief answered. As a probationary officer, his status is being reviewed. Sophia frowned. The video shows both officers acting with the same bias. Why the different treatment? Captain Rivera cleared his throat. Officer Dawson's attorney is arguing that he was following his training officer's lead. As someone still in his probationary period, he didn't feel he could question Reed's approach. That's convenient, Carlos commented dryly. Mayor Chen intervened. We understand your frustration, but addressing individual officers is only part of the solution. Your proposals for systemic change are where we can make lasting impact. One of the oversight committee members, a woman named Dr. Chen, no relation to the mayor, spoke up. Ms. Mendoza, would you be willing to work directly with our committee on implementing these reforms? Your perspective would be invaluable. Sophia considered the offer. I would under certain conditions. First, these can't just be recommendations that sit on a shelf. There needs to be a timeline for implementation and consequences if deadlines aren't met. Second, we need community voices at the table, not just mine. And third, there needs to be complete transparency throughout the process. Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. Those are reasonable conditions. The meeting continued for another hour, diving into specifics of the proposals. Throughout the discussion, Sophia remained focused and articulate, impressing everyone with her knowledge and thoughtful approach. As they were wrapping up, Mayor Chen addressed Sophia directly. Your response to this incident has been remarkable. Many people in your position would be focused solely on punishment. Your vision goes much further. This was never about punishment, Sophia replied. It's about preventing the next incident, and the one after that. Outside City Hall, the media was waiting. This time it was Mayor Chen who stepped to the microphones, with Sophia, Carlos, and the police chief beside her. Today marks the beginning of important changes in our city's approach to policing, the mayor announced. Ms. Sophia Mendoza has agreed to work with our police oversight committee to implement comprehensive reforms that will address bias and build community trust. As the mayor continued, outlining the initiatives, Sophia noticed a group of young people at the edge of the crowd, holding signs with her photo and the words "Stand with Sophia" and "Justice for All." One young woman caught her eye and gave her a thumbs up. Sophia smiled back, feeling a wave of emotion. Later that evening, as they drove home, Carlos watched his daughter staring out the car window, lost in thought. Penny, for your thoughts? He asked gently. Sophia turned to him with a small smile. I keep thinking about what you told me when I started my nonprofit. You said, sometimes the worst experiences give birth to the most important work. Carlos nodded, remembering. I still believe that. Yesterday, when those handcuffs were put on me, I felt so powerless, Sophia admitted. But today I realized I have more power than I thought, not because of our money or connections, but because people are listening. And what will you say now that they're listening? Carlos asked. Sophia looked back out the window at the city passing by. That change isn't just possible, it's necessary. And I'm going to make sure it happens. As their car turned into the driveway, Sophia's phone buzzed with a notification. The governor's office had sent over details for the police reform task force. The work was just beginning, and Sophia Mendoza was ready. 6 months later, Sophia stood in front of the old Wilson building on Maple Street, now transformed into the Mendoza Community Center. The once vacant property buzzed with activity as workers installed the final touches before tomorrow's grand opening. What do you think? Asked Lucia, who had taken on the role of operations director for the center. Sophia smiled, taking in the modern glass entrance adorned with colorful murals created by local artists. It's perfect. Better than I imagined. The journey to this moment had been intense. After the incident with the police officers, Sophia had become the unexpected face of a movement. Her poised response and focus on systemic change rather than revenge had resonated with people across the country. Hard to believe it's been 6 months, Lucia remarked, checking items off her clipboard. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Sophia nodded, remembering how quickly events had unfolded after that press conference on her father's lawn. The video had eventually garnered over 50 million views. News outlets had covered the story for weeks. Both officers had ultimately lost their jobs. Reed immediately and Dawson after his suspension when additional complaints came to light. but that had just been the beginning. Ms. Mendoza? A young man approached, clipboard in hand. The tech setup in the education room is complete. Would you like to see it? Absolutely, Sophia replied, following him into the building. Inside, the community center was a marvel of thoughtful design. Computer labs for job training. Classrooms for everything from English lessons to financial literacy. Legal aid offices. A health clinic. And perhaps most significantly, a dedicated space for community police dialogue sessions. Sophia checked her watch. The reporter from the Tribune will be here in 20 minutes. I want to make sure everything's ready. Already on it, Lucia assured her. The conference room is set up and I've pulled together all the materials about the police reform initiative. The police reform initiative had been Sophia's main focus for the past 6 months. Working with the city's oversight committee, state legislators, and community leaders, she had helped develop and implement comprehensive changes to police training, accountability measures, and community engagement. Today's interview was to discuss the progress made and challenges ahead. As Sophia reviewed her notes in the conference room, her phone buzzed with a text from her father. Just landed. We'll be there in 30. Proud of you, mija. Carlos had been in Washington, D.C. meeting with federal lawmakers about adopting elements of their local reforms nationally. What had begun as a response to Sophia's personal experience had grown into something much larger. The reporter, Diane Lopez from the Tribune, arrived precisely on time. A photographer accompanied her, immediately capturing images of the center's interior. Ms. Mendoza, thank you for making time today, Diane said, setting up her recorder. This place is impressive. Thank you, Sophia replied, settling into her chair. We're excited to open the doors tomorrow. Let's start with the center itself, Diane suggested. What made you choose this location specifically? Sophia smiled slightly. It's actually just a few blocks from where I was handcuffed 6 months ago. That's not a coincidence. We wanted to create something positive in the very neighborhood where something negative happened. Diane nodded, making notes. And the center offers quite a range of services. Community needs are interconnected, Sophia explained. We can't address safety without addressing education, employment, health, and legal support. It's all part of the same ecosystem. Speaking of safety, Diane transitioned. Your police reform initiative has become a model that other cities are looking to adopt. Did you expect it to have such an impact? Sophia considered the question. Honestly, no. I was just focused on making sure what happened to me wouldn't happen to someone else. But as we did the work, it became clear that many communities were hungry for this kind of blueprint. Can you outline the key elements of the initiative? Sophia leaned forward. There are 5 core components. First, comprehensive bias training for all officers, not just a one-time seminar but ongoing education. Second, community oversight with actual power, not just advisory capacity. Third, transparent disciplinary procedures when misconduct occurs. Fourth, revised use of force policies. And fifth, regular community dialogue sessions where officers and residents can speak directly to each other. And you've been personally facilitating some of those dialogue sessions, correct? Yes, Sophia confirmed. That's been the most challenging and rewarding part. Getting people who often see each other as adversaries to recognize each other's humanity isn't easy. But it's essential. The photographer moved around the room, capturing Sophia from different angles as she spoke. There's been some pushback, Diane noted. The police union initially opposed several elements of the reforms. Sophia nodded. Change is hard, especially institutional change. But we've made progress. By focusing on how these reforms actually make officers' jobs safer too, we've won over many who were skeptical at first. Including Officer Dawson, I understand. Sophia paused, surprised by the mention. Yes, that's right. After losing his job, Tyler Dawson had gone through a period of anger and denial, but eventually he had reached out to Sophia through her attorney, asking to meet. Dawson now speaks at our training sessions, Sophia explained. He talks about the biases he didn't recognize he had, and how they affected his actions that day. It's powerful testimony coming from someone who's been on both sides. That's an unexpected development, Diane remarked. What was it like meeting with him? Difficult, Sophia admitted, but necessary. He was genuinely remorseful and wanted to be part of the solution. That takes courage. The interview continued for another 30 minutes, covering the initiative's measurable outcomes. Complaints against officers down by 30%. Community trust indicators up. More diverse recruitment in the police academy. As they were wrapping up, Carlos arrived. Diane asked for a few quotes from him as well. This center and the reform initiative represent the best kind of response to injustice, Carlos told her. Not just anger, though that's valid, but constructive action. Sophia understood that from the beginning. After the reporter and photographer left, Carlos embraced his daughter. The place looks amazing, Sophia. Mom would have been so proud. Sophia felt a familiar pang at the mention of her mother, who had passed away 5 years earlier. She always said to turn pain into purpose. And you've done exactly that, Carlos affirmed. They walked through the building together, Carlos noting all the thoughtful details Sophia had incorporated. When they reached the education center, a group of volunteers was training on the computer systems. We're already fully booked for the first month of classes, Sophia told him. Everything from basic computer skills to coding. Carlos watched the diverse group of volunteers, young and old from all backgrounds, working together enthusiastically. You've built more than just a building here. We've built a community, Sophia agreed. That's the whole point. They continued their tour, stopping at the community dialogue room, a carefully designed space with a circular seating arrangement, neutral colors, and state-of-the-art recording equipment to document all sessions. The first police community dialogue is scheduled for next week, Sophia explained. We already have 15 officers and 25 residents signed up. Any resistance from the department? Carlos asked. Sophia shook her head. Not anymore. Chief Banks has made it part of officers' required community service hours. And honestly, many of them want to be here. They're tired of the tension too. As evening approached, staff and volunteers began to leave, preparing for the big opening day tomorrow. Sophia lingered, walking through the quiet building and taking it all in. In the main lobby, a memorial wall displayed photos and stories of individuals who had experienced racial profiling or police misconduct. Their stories had informed every aspect of the center's design and programs. Sophia stopped at the wall, reading some of the testimonials she knew by heart now. People who had shared their most painful experiences in hopes of creating change. Her phone buzzed, a news alert. She opened it to find that the state legislature had just passed the Police Accountability Act, incorporating many of the reforms she had championed locally. The governor was expected to sign it next week. She texted the news to her father, who had left for a dinner meeting with potential donors for similar centers in other cities. It passed. All that lobbying paid off. His reply came quickly. Never doubted it. Your mother used to say, "Justice moves slowly, but it moves. Keep pushing it forward, mija." Sophia put her phone away and walked to the glass doors at the entrance. Outside, the sun was setting over the neighborhood. The same streets where 6 months ago, she had stood handcuffed and humiliated. Now she stood as a founder, an advocate, a voice for change. A police car drove slowly past the center, and the officer inside waved. Sophia recognized him as one of the participants in their pilot dialogue program. She waved back, small steps. Real change. As she locked up the building, Sophia thought about tomorrow's ribbon-cutting ceremony. The mayor would be there, along with the police chief, community leaders, and hundreds of residents. The media would cover it, of course. Her story still drew attention, but it wasn't just her story anymore. It had become something bigger, a movement that had already begun to change laws, policies, and most importantly, hearts and minds. Walking to her car, Sophia passed the spot where she had been pulled over that fateful day. She paused briefly, remembering the fear and anger she had felt. Those emotions had not disappeared. They had transformed into determination, into purpose. As she drove away, Sophia glanced in her rearview mirror at the community center, its lights still glowing warmly against the darkening sky. A beacon in the neighborhood. A promise kept. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles for justice and understanding. But tonight, Sophia allowed herself to feel something too often missing in the long fight for social change. Hope. Because sometimes, the worst 5 minutes of your life can lead to the most important work of your lifetime, and sometimes justice does more than move slowly forward. Sometimes it transforms the very ground on which it stands.